This is a nice little kit. I think it's 2010. One of the interesting things I did here was I went with the desert camo, the tropical version. I did enjoy the kit enough that I would buy it again and do the Norway scheme. But like you said, there's a couple quirks with this. As it goes, it's a standard Airfix kit, 1/72nd. If you've seen the instructions for Airfix, you've seen them all, as they say. In the first instance, I was a little bit confused on which to do, but for some strange reason, I've never done desert camo, and my grandfather was in North Africa, on the British side, of course, but that's a different story. Anyway, like I say, the Norway scheme was what I was originally planning to do, but just for something different, I went with the desert scheme. This is the older plastic, but no issues. It's all pretty good. Out of interest, the 110 itself, it started as a fighter bomber, but basically, well, I should say a heavy fighter. And then it got hammered, and then from there, they had to rejig and make best, as everyone did during the war, make best with what they had. So it became more of a fighter bomber. Yeah, there's plenty of you who know far more about it than me. This is the little figures. This is 2 crew on this. I have been putting a fair bit more work into the figures on the whole. Mr. Finishing Surfacer, one thing I've got to say here, and I sometimes don't make it clear, is I do use a lot of lacquers. I prefer them, but if you haven't used them, just beware, because you do need a good setup, and you can't run them through standard airbrushes. A lot of the solvents will just melt your O-rings and seals and so on. So do be careful of that if you are thinking about experimenting. Having said that, I do tend to use layers. So as you can see here, going from one extreme to the other, I've basically used Mr. Surfacer lacquer primer from the rattle can. Then I've come through, put lacquer paint over the top, and I used the acrylic paints for detail. A lot of that final detail. And one of the nice things there is, if it doesn't go to plan, I can wash it off at that point. Not that I have to do that often, but it's just, I think, just keep in mind that there is that idea of doing the layers. The most caustic stuff goes on the bottom, and then you work up through to the nicer stuff. Don't forget to drill out any holes. It's always one of those things that's fixable, but I've had my share over the years of putting wings together and then suddenly remembering that I had forgot to drill out the holes, and then you're left with a bit of guesswork. So yeah, just beware of that. Like I say, this is a really nice little kit, and I will buy it again just to do the Norway version. One thing you'll see me doing here is using my homemade sanding sticks. They're essentially just, I call them paddle pop sticks, but icy pole sticks, where I've glued different grits onto each side. I think 200, 400 and 1200. I've got a variety. They're easy enough to make. You don't need to be a genius to put them together. I could do it, but they are actually really useful. I did decide to go with this in flight. I'm not quite sure why in the end, but it just seemed one of those things that I thought would be nice to do. This is one of those quirky bits that I thought I'd put in here, leave a bit longer. One of the weird things I can't quite work out is sometimes it seems like whoever's designed some of these bits has never built a plane, because the machine guns I had to actually cut and split just to get them to go through the holes. Once I did that, it went through fine. But I'd still probably be doing that now if I was trying to get the 4 machine guns to line up with the 4 holes. It was just one of those ones. Not a big deal, but it leaves you sort of scratching your head thinking, why? Undersurface paint, easy, just that sky blue. And then I've come across with RLM79, which is really just sand desert schema, as you can see. That sandy sort of colour. I think the nice thing about the RLM colours is they're quite exact for whatever historical reason. I use a mix of tape for the under detail tape. I will use the Tamiya, that is my preference. For the bulky work, I just use cheap, what would you say, the $2 shop tape. Actually, you don't want good tape for this. You want the cheap, low-tax stuff. That's just my tip for the day. You can see there my standard thing of packing wet tissue paper into the cockpit and so on, just to give me that masking there. I find that works for me. So you can see here where I'm coming across with I think this is 2mm Tamiya tape, and I'll use that to get a really nice edge and seal, and it's easier to line up. Obviously on curved surfaces you can't use thick tape. I'll use the 1 or 2mm depending on what I'm doing. This is an important bit, and I've screwed this up so many times in the past. Because I'm spraying and painting the white band, make sure you get the size right, otherwise you'll end up with this mess that becomes hard to fix later on, where you'll go to put the decals on and it's too wide or too narrow. Now we're into really the home straight. Like I say, this is a nice little kit, no great dramas, but there's this few of these quirky things where I was like, hang on, whoever designed it, have you ever built the plane? So you can see there I always do a bit of a test. Whites and yellows I find always a bit difficult to just get the consistency right, so I'm cautious there. The engine nacelles, this is where I got into one of those weird bits which I'll explain in a second, but yeah, you can see here really just being delicate, and I do have a good setup. The fan in the background is really sucking, so to speak. It's really quite forceful. So this is always a cool bit. Yeah, you see as the masking comes off, and hopefully everything's gone well, which it has here. I think masking is one of those ones, take your time. A good tip that someone told me, and I think it's going around, is especially to just use a quick coat of clear if you're less certain. So that's the painted plane. I should also say thank you. I can't remember who, someone in the comments in my last video did ask to do a 110. So here you are. I'll definitely do the Norwegian one, as I say. I also experimented a bit with the canopy masking, but I'll probably mention that in another video because these small ones can be really tedious, and it seemed to work well. This is where I was coming at with another one of these sort of, what were they thinking, design approach. I spent ages messing around just trying to get these pins for the propeller in. Also, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. It does help me out. YouTube thinks I'm dead if there's no audience interaction, and I do definitely appreciate everyone's comments, and I like learning from everyone. Another one, yeah, it sort of works, and it looks good actually in the end, but the exhaust for the engines, they're inverted, which is the prototype on the starboard port side, as you can see here. But it's just a bit fiddly getting all this together, which I just didn't really... like I said, it's doable and it wasn't end of the world, but you kind of left scratching your head sort of thinking, hey, why did you go that way? But at this point, yeah, it's looking pretty cool. I'm really happy actually with it. Like I say, I can't remember, maybe when I was 12 or something, long time ago, I did a desert scheme. The stand is my homemade versions. I'll do a video on that if someone is interested. What I do is I use the clear round sprues off Edward kits and a base plate. So it's really just a quarter or third of one of those Edward clear sprues. And yeah, that gives me a bit more height. I do use the Airfix ones, but sometimes they're just not high enough, and I've got some 3D printed ones. Onto decals now. Decals always nice with Airfix, cartograph, and so on. This is the part I was saying, make sure you measure that banding if you're going to spray it yourself. It's just, that's one of the few things that really is difficult to fix up if you don't get it right. It just becomes a real headache to get that lined up. So measure twice, as they say. No cutting in that case, but yeah, definitely make sure you get your measurements right when you're doing that masking. And like I say, this is, I don't even think I've done a 110 before. I grew up, when I was a kid, my mum especially, she would have been, why are you doing German planes? I never really did any at all, to be honest. Maybe one or two, and that would have just been so that the Spitfire or Hurricane can shoot it down. So yeah, I grew up in that sort of family, let's say. But yeah, this is, at this point, I'm really pretty happy with it. And that gives you an idea of the stand. I can't even remember where the base plate come from. It's sort of in my junk box, and I'll just drill it out and use that Edward plastic sprue. So onto the small decals. There's lots of them. I don't get too fanatical about it, just to, I think, give the impression is always good. Weathering, I wanted to have it, obviously this is out in the desert, whenever 43, 44, something like that, 43 would have been. So I've done the panel lines, just, I'm not huge into weathering, as most of you know, but out in the desert, everything's going to get dusty. So one of my go-tos now, and I actually do really like using these, is the Life Color acrylics. And you can see there, I'm almost doing it like the barber does, cover your face and spray that stuff on your hair before they finish up. So there you go, lightly weathered, or what would I say, desertification, some dust and bit of panel line going on there. Really happy with this one. Like I say, there's a couple quirky bits in the build, but the actual finished product is really pretty sweet. So I do hope you've enjoyed that one. I'll see you in the next build. As always, hit me up in the comments and give me a like and subscribe. Thank you again. See you next time. Enjoy your modeling. Bye for now.